A very good morning to you, children. Today we shall learn the poem The Pilgrim. The Pilgrim is a very beautiful poem that tells us about a journey undertaken by an old man. The poet here very beautifully brings out the message of the poem, that we need to go forward fearlessly and we need to make the path smooth for the people who will follow us. We all are travelers on this journey of life, and our small, selfless acts of concern for others will make the life of the future generation a better one. Children, the writer of this poem is not known. Therefore, we say that the poem is written by anonymous. That means an unknown writer. Children, kindly make a note of the meanings and answers discussed during the explanation of the poem on a file sheet paper. Preserve them for your study work. Warming up exercise. Question 1. What fatal dangers or problems did mankind face centuries ago but are no longer a threat today? The fatal dangers or problems faced by mankind centuries ago but are no longer a threat today are travel. People faced a host of dangers when traveling. The roads were not safe, there were robbers on the way, and places to stay were unclear and dirty. There were accidents that took place as the roads were in a pitiable condition with no bridges or road lights. Deadly diseases. There were fatal diseases like typhoid, cholera, and malaria. People also faced the problems of hunger due to poverty and natural disasters such as floods and earthquakes. Question 2. Name a few scientists, explorers, social reformers, inventors, discoverers who spent most of their lives to find solutions to some major problems, setbacks that mankind faced. There were scientists such as Alexander Fleming, who discovered the penicillin. Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone. Galileo invented the telescope and military compass. There were social reformers such as Raja Ram Mohan Roy. He was known for his efforts to abolish the practices of sati and child marriage. Swami Dayanand Saraswati. His contributions were promoting equal rights for women, such as the right to education. Some more questions. Did they themselves suffer from those setbacks? No. Many of these social reformers and scientists did not suffer from the setbacks of these problems, but they did it to help the people who were suffering. The next question. What inspired them to spend the best part of their lives to research and share their findings? All these scientists and social reformers were inspired by the sufferings and setbacks of humankind. They wanted to bring a change in the lives of the people in the society and eradicate their sufferings. Children, now let's move to the poem. I'll start by reading the entire poem first and then explain it to you stanza by stanza. So let's begin. The Pilgrim. A pilgrim going a lone highway came at evening cold and grey to a chasm deep and vast and wide. The old man crossed in the twilight dim. The chasm held no fear for him, but he paused when he reached the other side and built a bridge to span the tide. "Old man," said a fellow pilgrim near, "why waste your time in building here? Your journey ends with the close of the day. You never again will pass this way. You have crossed the chasm deep and wide. Why build ye here at eventide?" Pilgrim raised his old grey head. "My friend, in the path I've come," he said, "there followeth after me today a fair-haired youth who must pass this way. The chasm which held no fears for me, to the fair-haired youth may a pitfall be. He too must cross in the twilight dim. My friend, I am building this bridge for him." Okay, children, now we've read the entire poem. Now I'll explain it to you stanza by stanza. Stanza 1. A pilgrim going a lone highway came at evening cold and grey to a chasm deep and vast and wide. The old man crossed in the twilight dim. The chasm held no fears for him, but he paused when he reached the other side and built a bridge to span the tide. Children, the first line of this poem, a pilgrim going a lone highway. Who is a pilgrim? A pilgrim is a person who journeys to a sacred place for religious reasons. Now, this pilgrim was on a lone highway. A lone highway means a lonely highway. So this pilgrim was traveling on a lonely highway. The second line, came at evening cold and grey. This line describes the evening time that the pilgrim was traveling. And how is the evening described as? The evening is said to be cold and grey. The third line, to a chasm deep and vast and wide. Now this old man comes to a chasm. A chasm is a very deep valley. So the characteristic of this chasm is deep and vast and wide. The fourth line, the old man crossed in the twilight dim. The meaning of twilight is a period just before it becomes completely dark. So this man, this old pilgrim, he was able to cross this chasm in the twilight, means when it was nearly dark. The fifth line, the chasm held no fear for him, means while this pilgrim was crossing this deep and wide chasm, he did not get scared. He was able to cross it fearlessly. that too when it was late in the evening. The sixth line, but he paused when he reached the other side and built a bridge to span the tide. The meaning of span the tide means to go across the tide. So what did the old man do after crossing the chasm? He paused, means he stopped. Instead of going further, what he did? He stopped and built a bridge. Now, why did he build the bridge? He built the bridge to span the tide, means to bridge the gap between the chasm. Textual meanings and questions that appear in this stanza. Chasm, ravine, a very deep, steep gap in the earth's surface. Span the tide, go across the tide. Question, textual question. What did the pilgrim do, although he had already crossed the chasm? The pilgrim built a bridge, although he had already crossed the chasm. Stanza 2. Old man, said a fellow pilgrim near, why waste your time in building here? Your journey ends with the close of the day. You never again will pass this way. You have crossed the chasm deep and wide. Why build ye here at eventide? Now children, on that same path there was a fellow pilgrim. Even he was traveling. This pilgrim saw what the old man was doing, and so he said to the old man, Old man, why are you wasting your time building this bridge? Your journey ends with the close of the day. You will never again pass this way. Means he's telling the old pilgrim that your journey also ends as the day is ending, and that you have already crossed this deep chasm and you are never going to cross it again. So why are you wasting your time here building this bridge? Textual meanings and question. The meaning of ye means you. Eventide means late evening. Question, what puzzled the fellow pilgrim? Answer, the fellow pilgrim could not understand why the old pilgrim was building a bridge over the deep and wide chasm after he had already crossed it. There was no need of doing so, since the man was too old and would never pass that way again. Stanza 3. Pilgrim raised his old grey head. My friend, in the path I've come, he said, there followeth after me today. Followeth means follows. A fair-haired youth who must pass this way. The chasm which held no fears for me, to the fair-haired youth may a pitfall be. A pitfall here means a trap. He too must cross in the twilight dim. My friend, I am building this bridge for him. So, in answer to the question of the fellow pilgrim, The old pilgrim raises his head from work and says, "My friend, in the path I've come, there followeth after me today a fair-haired youth who must pass this way." Means he's saying that on the same path, someone, a youth, will pass this way. And this chasm, which held no fear for the old man, could be a pitfall to the youth that would be crossing. He's saying that the old man was able to cross this chasm without any fear. But to the one who would be crossing, that is the fair-haired youth, who would be crossing during the twilight, he may fall into the chasm. This crossing would be difficult for this youth. So to avoid this trouble for him, the old man was building a bridge. The poem offers a profound message of selflessness to its readers. The old pilgrim represents selflessness of human beings who thinks not only about themselves but are deeply concerned about the well-being and safety of others. The chasm symbolizes the challenges one has to face in life. The twilight represents the fact that challenges might become unpleasant situations at times. The fellow pilgrim is a symbol of selfish people who are only concerned about themselves and who feel that it is a waste of energy, time, and effort to think about the welfare of others. The fair-haired youth who is to follow symbolizes all those inexperienced young people who lack the awareness that comes with experience. Thus, this poem sends a powerful message promoting the desire to develop care and concern for others. Textual meanings and questions in this stanza. Pitfall, here it means a trap. What could be the third pilgrim? Answer: the third pilgrim could be the coming generation. Central idea of the poem: one must be selfless enough to share life's experiences with the next generation, enabling them to travel along the journey of life by avoiding pitfalls. Children, with this, we come to the end of the explanation and discussion of the poem. I'll stop here for now. In the next class, we'll learn about the figures of speech appearing in this poem. This was all for now. Thank you and take care.